Tonight on CFTK-TV News, the large amount of rain has resulted in word from the River Forecast Center. We hear from the search and rescue team that found a missing young girl, and local first responders got some training based around electric vehicles.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Maslin, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for the day. With the influx of rain that we have gotten to start the week, the province's River Forecast Center has since responded by putting a few notifications out to effectively warn people to not have any plans to journey in or even nearby local bodies of water. The center has 3 levels of advisory/warnings. High stream flow advisories let people know that river levels are rising. Flood watches let people know to be ready because a flood is possible. And flood warnings make it clear that a flood is likely coming and soon. The Skeena, Haida, Gwaii, Central Coast, and North Coast major basins are all currently under high stream flow advisories. King Cum and Kinabato have been placed under flood watches, and the Telkwa River has been hit with a flood warning, as well as the highway leading into Gingolk in the Nass Valley being closed after a mudslide occurred. With the finding of a 6-year-old girl named Oakland Schwetter over the weekend, the Terrace Search and Rescue Team was on the scene to find her after 3 missing days. Here's CFTK's Damian Smith with some more information on the team.
As the story of the weekend dies down, CFTK caught up with the Terrace Search and Rescue Team who were in Burns Lake helping out in the search for 6-year-old Oakland Schwetter. And according to manager Dwayne Shepard, this was a search like no other.
No doubt the biggest search I've ever been on in my 26-year career. Definitely have been on many large searches. This being the largest one. Big searches are very interesting. There's a certain atmosphere there where everyone is there for a common goal. I tell all of our new volunteers, get trained, go on rescues, go on searches. Hopefully you find that one search or rescue that gets you hooked for the next, 2, 5 years, maybe 10. We love searchers that have been around for 10 years. And this is one of those searches, right? It hooks you and makes you realize that, hey, you're doing something great with your time.
And like Dwayne mentioned, this group is volunteer-based and is actually hosting an open house tomorrow at 7 p.m.
Every year we recruit around 12 members. We usually get around 20 to 30 applicants. We're very fortunate that we get that many applicants for 12 positions. So some of the activities that we do, some of our disciplines, and an introduction to our new hall, our new base of operations there. We have an occupancy in the bottom of the building while we fundraise and construct the upper floors. So it's just a general introduction for anyone who may be interested in being part of search and rescue in the province of BC.
From Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
First responders in the area were keeping up with the latest this past weekend by learning the different challenges that electric vehicles present. CFTK's Jaylene Matthews has more on said training.
Electric and hybrid vehicles have changed the game when it comes to automotives, but perhaps lesser known, they've also changed the game for rescues.
So there is a procedure that we need to follow for a proper shutdown and how to approach those vehicles, i.e. why I'm here today.
Kevin Patterson has been touring BC, providing education to first responders on the different challenges electric vehicles may pose.
The instructor is showing us on the different types of models and the vehicles where the battery disconnections are going to be. They do differ from vehicle to vehicle, and so ensuring that we're cutting A, the right wire, and B, in the right location to secure the source that we're going to be working around. These are the techniques that he's bringing that are quite literally life-saving, and not just for the person that's been in the incident, but also for the first responders that are helping the individuals in that time of need.
Brousson says first responders need to make several considerations.
The time and the amount of water that it's going to take to extinguish one of them. So some of the extenuating factors could be exposures, buildings. Typically we'll see these vehicles in a parked garage where they're charging. And so when the fire breaks out in the vehicle, now we're not only just dealing with the vehicle fire, but we're dealing with the exposure of the actual house and surrounding area.
Patterson's biggest tip for EV owners: know your vehicle.
Read your operator's manual. Know what to do in the event of an emergency with these things. You know, when we lose our low voltage on these vehicles, well, now all of a sudden our doors don't open. But there is mechanical ways to do so. Had we read the manual, it would have been uneventful.
For CFTK News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
Coming up next, the NDP have publicly released a less than flattering video of John Rustad. Welcome back. The NDP have come out swinging, releasing a video of BC Conservative leader John Rustad expressing his concerns about COVID-19 vaccinations. The video clip has gone viral, but Rustad is not answering questions about it.
The New Democrats offered voters a well-choreographed campaign working toward a man-of-the-people impression of leader David Eby and a literal kitchen table discussion with voters.
I'm here to listen.
Including testimonials about finding a family doctor after losing theirs.
I got a call out of the blue. I tell you, it felt like I'd won the lotto.
Behind the photo op, the NDP had launched an attack against the BC Conservative leader with the release of this clip.
I've had 3 shots of the vaccine. I wish I hadn't, quite frankly.
From a video posted by a public employees group against vaccine mandates.
The so-called vaccine, the COVID mRNA shots. When I talked to Bonnie Henry about it, I started to realize that it wasn't so much about trying to get herd immunity or trying to stop the spread, but it was more around shaping opinion and control on the population.
Reporters grilled John Rustad about those comments.
I see the NDP are attacking me about this, and I understand how they want to distract.
Again.
Do you believe the vaccine science?
So, look, clearly, in my opinion, what needs to be done in this province is we need to make sure that our healthcare system is good.
And again.
Please explain to voters why you said you would get the 3 doses of the COVID vaccine.
Like I say, this is David Eby's attempt to hide from his policies and approaches and his failures.
6 times in total as Rustad tried to change the subject.
Like I've said before, I mean, we're here talking about this issue of affordability.
He left the door open to easy attacks from his opponents.
Vaccines, we know, have saved thousands of lives across British Columbia. And to have somebody who wants to be the premier of this province doesn't even believe in vaccines, it should be troubling for all British Columbians.
He says one thing in a meeting that he thinks is secret that won't get out, and he says another thing in public.
For the rest of the campaign, expect Eby to repeat this message on what will guide decision-making for BC's next premier.
Will it be based on science? Will it be based on best practice? Or will it be based on internet conspiracy theories?
John Rustad also recently unveiled his party's plan to address a key issue for the majority of voters in this election, affordability. He's announced an ambitious rebate for renters and homeowners, but as CTV's Reagan Hasegawa explains, it won't be available for several years.
Being dubbed the Rustad rebate, this campaign promise is aimed at the middle class.
Government should not be taxing your primary issues like your residents. Government should not be in the way of making sure that people can be able to put a roof over their head, making sure that people can have those safe places, and making sure that people can have that dream of owning a home.
The rebate would exempt up to $3,000 a month in housing costs from provincial income taxes. The program would begin in 2026 at $1,500 per month, then grow by $500 every year after that. Rustad says households making under $250,000 a year would be eligible. When asked how the rebate would be paid for, he said by reining in, quote, reckless spending by the NDP. NDP leader David Eby criticized Rustad's platform during his own housing announcement on Sunday.
It's day one, it's RIT day, and what is his vision for housing? He says it's not my responsibility. It's not the government's responsibility to ensure affordable housing for people. Well, I'll tell you this, I lie awake thinking about how we can ensure that people have access to affordable housing.
Rustad did not provide any further details about his housing platform, but says that will be coming later this week. Reagan Hasegawa, CTV News, Surrey.
A man accused of driving his truck into a group of people during a march for residential school survivors has been found guilty of the only charge that he faced. CTV's Ben Milger has more from provincial court in Abbotsford.
In June of 2022, then 77-year-old Richard Manuel came across a group of people marching along Lougheed Highway in Mission towards St. Mary's Residential School. He denies he hit anyone with his truck that day, but in handing down her guilty verdict, the provincial court judge said she found his testimony to be unreliable. During the dangerous driving trial, a number of witnesses said they saw Manuel driving on the shoulder before his truck hit a flagger wearing high visibility clothing and holding a stop sign. Other witnesses said they saw him continue driving dangerously and then hit at least 2 other people while yelling derogatory remarks out the window. Testifying in his own defense, Manuel said he did not hit anyone, denied driving on the shoulder or making derogatory remarks. I do not believe critical aspects of Mr. Manuel's evidence, Judge Edna Ritchie said in handing down her guilty verdict. Manuel appeared by video from Nova Scotia, where he now lives. No date has yet been set for his sentencing. The maximum penalty he could face is 2 years less a day in jail. Ben Milger, CTV News, Abbotsford.
Turning to tonight's weather, the North Coast should be home to periods of rain, plus a low of 9 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area is expected to be home to rain as well as a low of 10 degrees. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District will likely deal with rain of its own, and their low will drop to 5 degrees. On the North Coast, the next week or so should end up dealing with essentially only rain and clouds, plus the high will jump from 11 to 13 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, the upcoming week will see lots of rain and clouds of its own as the high shifts from 10 to 13 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the week for them might get a sliver of sun, but clouds and rain otherwise, as the high bounces between 8 and 14 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is water pooling, bridge maintenance, other maintenance, utility work, construction work, line painting, and paving operations. Highway 37 has some maintenance, roadside brushing, and water pooling. 37A has ditching, and there is some construction work, water pooling, and even a mudslide on the Nishka Highway. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, Israel and Hezbollah have continued their conflict in a very aggressive manner. Welcome back. Israel and Hezbollah recently exchanged fierce cross-border fire. Hezbollah is targeting populated areas inside of northern Israel, while Israel strikes Hezbollah targets inside Lebanon, sending texts in advance that warn civilians to take cover. CTV's Adrian Gobrel now on those events and growing fears of an escalating crisis.
As the sounds of war echo across the border shared by Israel and Lebanon, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave this message to Lebanese people living in that country's southern region.
Get out of harm's way. I urge you, take this warning seriously.
And thousands have. Gridlocked to cold as families fleeing to northern Lebanon made the slow, desperate commute. This father saying, there were strikes there, so we got in the car. Like many, they're headed to Beirut. Though Lebanon's capital city has also become a target in recent days, Netanyahu blaming Hezbollah for using members of the public as human shields.
It placed rockets in your living rooms and missiles in your garage. Those rockets and missiles are aimed directly at our cities, directly at our citizens.
Sunday morning, Hezbollah claimed responsibility for firing these rockets deep into northern Israel near Haifa.
This has now become a full-fledged war between Israel and Hezbollah.
Israel's defense force claiming that in the last day alone, it's been able to destroy tens of thousands of rockets, as well as infrastructure that they say Hezbollah has been building for decades. The spark that lit this latest round of warfare, Israel's ongoing response to the October 7th attack by Hamas, who are still believed to be holding roughly 100 hostages in Gaza.
With the threat of a wider regional war, many are still processing the fallout from last week's deadly pager explosions in Lebanon by Israel, with the former director of the CIA, Leon Panetta, calling it a form of terrorism. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Toronto.
A Vancouver Island mother is furious her 5-year-old son isn't able to go to kindergarten full-time. He's been told he can only go to class 2 days a week because the school district doesn't have enough trained educational assistants. It's all because of a province-wide shortage of qualified EAs. And as CTV's Shannon Patterson reports, it's often children with disabilities who suffer the consequences.
It's hard. 5-year-old Daniel Gardner shouldn't be at home with his mom on a Monday afternoon. He's supposed to be a full-time kindergarten student.
Was really excited for the start of the school year because Daniel has not really had a fair shake at childhood. He's blind, he has autism, and he has epilepsy.
Daniel's parents had been assured their son would have a full-time educational assistant in the classroom when he started kindergarten in September. But
the Friday before school was supposed to start for him, I was told that there are no EAs available to support my son to be able to attend with his peers on the first day of school.
This is not surprising at all. As CUPE, we've been beating this drum for quite a few years now because we've seen it. This coming down the pipe. Recruitment and retention of EAs is it's impossible right now.
The school district found a medically trained EA that Daniel will share with another student, but that means he can only go to school 2 days a week.
We're not asking all of the able-bodied children to make a sacrifice for our, so those resources could be distributed. It's only my child with the disabilities that is being told that he has to have less of an education than his peers.
And that breaks my heart. I hate to hear that.
Gardner says it's not just heartbreaking, it's potentially law-breaking for her child to be denied a full-time education.
We need to collectively acknowledge that it's not okay.
While the school district won't comment specifically on Daniel, the superintendent said it can be difficult to hire and train enough educational assistants for children with complex educational and medical needs.
Sometimes that means that a highly trained EA that has that medical training is being asked to support more than one student while we wait for more EAs to be trained.
I mean, like anything, I think it starts at the top. I think the ministry does need to fund school districts better.
Until he's assigned a qualified full-time EA, Daniel is only able to go to school on Thursdays and Fridays.
I don't know how much he is comprehending it right now, but I keep telling him that I'm going to make it right for him. And I'm not going to stop until they do.
Shannon Patterson, CTV News.
A sailboat that sank in Falls Creek this summer is still sitting on the inlet's floor, and some are wondering if it's ever going to be taken away. The boat is just one of many that have gone under and have led to pricey and complicated cleanups. CTV's St. John Alexander has the story.
Just how long its mast has been poking up from Falls Creek isn't certain, but long enough that it's become an unwanted fixture of sorts beside the Cambie Street Bridge.
I think it's been there all summer, at least 2 months.
It's certainly not the only boat to go under. In fact, residents say it's a frequent occurrence. Another directly under the bridge was recently taken away.
It happens every month, you do a walk around and you'll see a new boat.
Some boats are abandoned or illegally anchored. Others aren't properly maintained. Some get overloaded, and it's not always clear if someone still calls it home before it's too late.
There's usually a couple over on that end, and then around the other bay, there's also been 2 this year.
The city, Transport Canada, and the VPD's Marine Unit are aware of this sailboat, and so far there are plans to remove it, though it's not certain who will do the job.
The water's getting hugely polluted, there's a lot of drugs that are happening, and somebody's going to blow up.
We certainly have seen fires in the past, another reason this will be removed. It is expensive, challenging too. Boats contain pollutants, fuel, oil, antifreeze, and no one wants any of that escaping into the water. St. John Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is up 23/10 of a cent. The price of gold is up $24.70. Oil is up $1.19. Natural gas is down 6 cents. Aluminum is up $9.50. In Toronto, the TSX is up 57.51 points. The Venture Index is up 8.91. In New York, the Dow Jones is up 83.57, and Nasdaq is up 100.25. Still ahead, a lawsuit in the U.S. is looking to shut down certain websites that allow deepfakes. Welcome back. In a deepfake, a picture or video of someone can be manipulated to appear as though the person is nude. Now, in a first-of-its-kind lawsuit, one U.S. city is trying to shut down 16 websites that gives users the technology to turn real images into pornography. NBC's Savannah Sellers reports.
How was the math test?
Yvonne Mere's first priority is being a mom. So a particular New York Times article shocked her.
About a 15-year-old girl whose life had been devastated by a non-consensual image of her that was nude.
That image was what's known as a deep fake, a picture that may be created with a real face, but using artificial intelligence to make a fake body.
When I read it, my own daughter, who's now 16, I thought to myself, this would be horrible.
Mere happens to be in a position to do something about it. In addition to being a mom, she's a top litigator in the San Francisco City Attorney's Office. She shared the article with her colleague, fellow mom and lawyer, Sarah Eisenberg.
How does this work? So there's a lot of different ways. I can take a picture of anyone, anytime. You can take a picture of a girl going to prom. I can grab it off of her social media page without her even knowing that I have taken it. Go to any number of these websites that are out there and just upload that picture, and it will use artificial intelligence to undress that person.
Mere and Eisenberg's boss, City Attorney David Chu, gave them the go-ahead to pursue legal action against the practice. They say it resulted in a first-of-its-kind lawsuit naming 16 top websites that create and distribute fake nude images of women and girls without consent.
What we found truly horrified us. There have been over 200 million visitors in just these 16 websites alone. We're talking about everyday people who are seeing their faces turned into pornography and, in too many instances, child pornography.
For Mere and Eisenberg, it's a labor of love, both for their constituents and a little closer to home.
You want to make a difference. You want to look back. I get choked up, like you want to make a difference. This makes a difference.
Mounties in Coquitlam say they found allegations about 3 officers over their alleged misconduct in 2021 shocking and disturbing. Court documents reveal that the 3 members could be fired over alleged racist behavior detailed by a fellow officer, including text chats that bragged about tasering unarmed black people. A schedule from the RCMP shows constables Philip Dick, Ian Sullivan, and Mursad Mesbah are slated to appear next February for code of conduct hearings over allegations including discrimination, harassment, and discrediting the police force. Coquitlam RCMP say such behavior has no place in the organization, noting that it has made changes to the conduct process since this case first began, including improving disciplinary decision-making mechanisms. That's all of our news for now. From everyone at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin. Thanks for watching.